Now we're following developments from the war in Ukraine. Russian forces are focusing their attacks on Ukraine's eastern industrial heartland. Military officials say this is a start to a new phase in the war after failed attempts to overrun the capital, Kyiv. In recent weeks, Russian forces have rearmed and reinforced units to prepare for the all-out Donbass offensive. That region is no stranger to fighting. Moscow-backed separatists in that region have battled Ukrainian forces for the past 8 years. Experts say Russia's new military approach is changing the landscape of the war.
The new phase is expected to mostly happen outside of Ukrainian cities and on flatter land. This would bring the fight closer to proximity to artillery and missile batteries within Russia.
Retired Marine Colonel Mark Kansian is joining us live this morning. He's a senior advisor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Good to have you back, Colonel. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on the show.
What are we seeing with this new phase? It's something that we've been talking about for several days now. Now it's actually underway.
Yes, the Russians have been moving their forces for a couple of weeks after they gave up the attack on Kyiv. So this is something we've been expecting. They're finally launched these attacks in the east, where the separatists have created enclaves, and the Russians look to be expanding those enclaves into building a land bridge between Crimea, which they took in 2014, and these separatist areas.
You talk about that land bridge, Colonel, and I want to talk about the port city of Mariupol. We know that the Russians have that city pretty much surrounded there. They offered the Ukrainian troops a surrender or die ultimatum. They're choosing to fight. How strategic and key would getting Mariupol be for Russian forces?
Well, the valiant defense of Mariupol seems to be coming to an end. Only a few small pockets still holding out. The Russians will probably take those in the next couple of days. But the resistance has been tremendously helpful to the Ukrainian war effort. It slowed down the Russians so that they couldn't move further north or east, and it inflicted a lot of casualties. I think the Russians will stay out of cities in the future as a result. The downside is that this will free up some Russian forces who will be able to move north and perhaps link up with Russian forces that are moving south from the Izium area.
Is there a scenario where the Ukrainians are able to hold on to Mariupol? I mean, they've had 21,000 deaths there. People have died there. Russians are dropping bombs on a steel plant where people are trying to hide underground. It seems pretty dire there right now.
There's really no way that Mariupol can hold out. And ever since it was surrounded, that was inevitable, because the Ukrainians couldn't get any reinforcements or supplies in. It was really just a matter of time until the Russians ground them down. We're just about at the end of that time now.
Taking a look at the offensive in the Donbass region there, depending on how this shakes out, if the Russians are successful there, could you see a way that this war ends? And I know Volodymyr Zelensky says he won't give up part of the Donbass just to end the war, but is that a foreseeable end to the war, where the Russians take the Donbass and there's some sort of treaty saying you take this area, similar to the way that Crimea went to the Russians, and that's the way this war ends?
Well, it's possible. It's hard to forecast, because a lot depends on what happens on the battlefield. If the Russians are successful and push the Ukrainians back, they might increase their demands. If the Ukrainians hold out successfully, they might be able to get the Russians to pull back. And the Russian military, I think, is very fragile at this point. They've taken a lot of casualties. They're getting down to the end of their resources. In the beginning, Zelensky put an offer on the table, which was neutrality and freezing the borders where they were before. I think he would still go back to that deal. I think it would be very hard for him to give up that much territory in the east and in the south.
Last week, when you joined us, we talked about some of the weapons that other countries in the U.S. were sending to Ukraine. Some of those cargo planes landed over the weekend. Kremlin leaders are complaining about the flow of Western weapons into Ukraine and kind of issuing or warning that there could be consequences for that. Is there any more movement on what the Russians perceive that to be, and what that consequence could look like?
Well, it's not surprising that the Russians are complaining about these supplies. The supplies have been massive. The United States is sending about $50 million a day of aid to the Ukrainians. That's allowed the Ukrainians to maintain themselves in the field, to to keep their forces fighting and even to expand their forces with all these militias they've developed. The Russians, on the other hand, are drawing down their stocks. I think what you see in the other parts of the country is Russia's attacking with its missiles. In Lviv, there was some attacks yesterday. I think those are aiming at the transit points and the storage points. You'll probably see more of that as the Russians try to make the resupply effort more difficult.
Colonel, what is going to be key for the Ukrainians? You mentioned Mariupol is already probably going to fall into the hands of Russians, but what is the key for them to win in the Donbass region, further north of Mariupol? What's going to be key for them there to hold off that Russian advance?
Well, I think the key is for them to keep doing what they've been doing, which is to conduct a very stubborn defense. They've developed pretty good infantry, and of course the anti-tank weapons have helped. We're sending them some artillery and more long-range weapons to help them deal with the Russian artillery, which is quite formidable. If they can hold on and keep inflicting casualties on the Russians, I think the Russian army may break. I'd say it's very, very fragile. So if they can hold on, that may be enough.
And we know morale is low, but it's hard to know exactly what they're dealing with in terms of numbers, just because the Kremlin is pretty tight-lipped about that.
Well, the Kremlin is. The estimates are that the Russians have lost maybe 15,000, maybe more killed, and probably twice that many wounded. That would be almost a third of their initial attacking force. They've added reinforcements and replacements, but those don't have the skill of the original forces. So morale may indeed be cracking. It wasn't very good at the beginning. And at some point, one hopes that the Russian generals will go to Putin and say, you've got to have a ceasefire or the army will break.
Mm-hmm. Retired Marine Colonel Mark Cancian, thank you so much for being here and just breaking down what we're seeing day-to-day play out in Ukraine. We always appreciate your insight here with us.
Thanks for having me on the show.